We always look up at the night sky. We expect to eventually find biological creatures piloting massive metal starships. This is an incredibly comforting assumption because it keeps our known laws of physics perfectly intact and completely predictable. However, this specific expectation entirely blinds humanity to a far more terrifying and mind-bending possibility hiding in plain sight. Let us imagine for a single moment that everything we confidently call physical reality is actually completely manufactured. What if the universe we currently inhabit was never a natural occurrence to begin with? Whenever big Hollywood blockbusters or popular sci-fi novels try to picture highly advanced extraterrestrial life, they usually fall into a very predictable trap. We tend to imagine these supreme alien beings simply as slightly smarter versions of ourselves flying around in much bigger, faster, and glossier spaceships. It is a massive cosmic projection of human arrogance, where we assume the ultimate pinnacle of technology is just building a gigantic metal box with a louder engine. We think conquering the vast cosmic dark is essentially the exact same thing as a long cross-country American road trip, just with hyperdrives instead of highway gas stations. This flawed assumption completely ignores the fundamental nature of how a civilization might actually evolve over millions of years. Now listen carefully, because to truly understand our own blinding limitations, we have to look back at the minds that first tried to categorize the cosmos. Take Enrico Fermi and Carl Sagan, brilliant pioneers who laid down the heavy mathematical foundations that make modern astronomy students sweat through final exams. Behind those intimidating equations, they were just regular guys trying to make sense of a big old galaxy while living ordinary American lives. Sagan famously pondered the deepest cosmic mysteries while simply wandering around the quiet college town of Ithaca, and Fermi delivered his legendary paradox not from a grand podium, but essentially as a casual throwaway remark over a mundane lunch. They recognized that to measure the unbelievable scale of alien progress, we needed a completely new kind of cosmic ruler. This brings us to the famous Kardashev scale, a theoretical framework ranking civilizations purely based on how much raw energy they can successfully manipulate. A Type 1 civilization is defined as a planetary society that has managed to harness absolutely every single drop of energy available on its home world. We are talking about capturing all the sunlight hitting the atmosphere, harnessing every wind gust, and utilizing the deep geothermal heat boiling beneath the crust. Humanity has not even reached this basic baseline yet, currently sitting at a measly 0.7 while still arguing about fossil fuels. Reaching this milestone would mean complete mastery over our own blue dot, ending catastrophic natural disasters and unpredictable climate shifts forever. But the real secret is what happens when a growing civilization finally exhausts its home planet and desperately needs to look upward for more juice. A Type 2 civilization takes a massive evolutionary leap by entirely capturing the energy output of their local star, essentially building a colossal megastructure known as a Dyson sphere. Imagine millions of solar panels orbiting the sun in a perfectly synchronized swarm, swallowing every single precious photon before it can permanently escape into the cold void. This provides an almost incomprehensible amount of power, enough to effortlessly terraform neighboring planets or power supercomputers the size of small moons. To us, this sounds like absolute peak science fiction, an engineering marvel stretching the very limits of our current imagination. Here is where it gets interesting, because the Kardashev scale does not stop at a single star system, but scales up to a truly terrifying galactic level. The Type 3 civilization has successfully managed to spread its influence across an entire galaxy, capturing the energy of billions of distinct star systems simultaneously. They would deploy countless von Neumann probes, self-replicating robotic machines bouncing from star to star, building infrastructure and beaming immense power back home. At this staggering stage, they could theoretically manipulate the immense gravity of black holes or harness the explosive raw fury of dying supernovas. They would essentially treat the entire Milky Way galaxy as their own personal battery pack, commanding resources on a mind-boggling scale. Yet, despite all this jaw-dropping scale and unimaginable power, do you notice the glaring conceptual problem hiding right at the heart of this famous scale? Even a Type 3 civilization, with all its billions of conquered stars and galactic megastructures, is still inherently trapped inside the physical limitations of our biological perspective. We are still just imagining cosmic engineers doing exactly what human construction workers do in a bustling American city, merely swapping out cold steel and concrete for burning stars. They are still building physical things, consuming raw material energy and moving giant physical objects across the dark cosmic highway. It is a profoundly naive projection, assuming that a billion-year-old alien species would still care about something as primitive as manipulating heavy physical matter. But what if the ultimate evolution of an advanced civilization is not about expanding outward into the vast physical universe at all? What if they simply transcend the tedious need for physical space altogether? If they are not building giant metal starships or shiny galactic empires, then how exactly do these godlike entities actually interact with the fabric of reality? Imagine David, a 26-year-old artificial intelligence engineer sitting in a dimly lit, overpriced apartment right in the heart of San Francisco. It is 2 a.m, the cold coastal fog is rolling over the Golden Gate Bridge outside his window, and he is running on pure caffeine and ambition. He has been staring intensely at 6 glowing monitors for hours, tracking a tiny, elusive anomaly inside a massive neural network he built entirely from scratch. This complex digital environment contains millions of autonomous agents constantly interacting, learning, evolving, and essentially living out their own simulated rudimentary lives within the servers. But suddenly, David spots a fundamental bug buried deep within the architecture, a cascading logical error that completely ruins his intended simulation output. Without a second thought, his exhausted finger hovers over the keyboard, and he simply presses the delete key to wipe the slate clean. In a fraction of a second, that entire digital universe, along with every single artificial entity struggling inside it, is permanently erased from existence. Now listen carefully, because this exact mundane scenario is the most terrifying and accurate way to understand a Type 4 civilization. We humans always comfortably imagine advanced aliens flying around in massive metallic starships, blasting laser beams and extracting raw resources from dead moons to fuel their empires. But a civilization that has actually reached this unimaginable fourth tier on the Kardashev scale definitely does not build rudimentary spaceships anymore. They have completely outgrown the fragile physical constraints of our three-dimensional reality and moved directly into the underlying code of the cosmos. To a Type 4 entity, manipulating the fundamental structure of space-time or seamlessly jumping between multiple parallel universes is not an engineering challenge. It is just a routine adjustment of the mathematical parameters that govern existence itself, much like tuning a software environment before compiling it. Here is where it gets interesting, as we look at how they might actually perceive our entire vast universe. If you possess the godlike ability to manipulate the multiverse, a single spiral galaxy like our Milky Way is not a massive, terrifying void. It is merely a single line of fragile code, running quietly in a much larger, incomprehensibly complex cosmic program that spans infinite dimensions. These supreme beings would possess the casual ability to alter the gravitational constant, tweak the expansion rate of dark energy, or fold time itself like a piece of cheap origami paper. They do not ever need to conquer physical planets, because they can simply spin up a brand new timeline whenever they require a different physical outcome. Can you begin to imagine the sheer existential dread of realizing that our entire human history might just be an isolated, temporary sandbox experiment? This brings us right back to that tired, overworked engineer sitting alone in his quiet San Francisco apartment. When David casually deleted his simulated world, he did not do it out of malice, anger, or some grand philosophical hatred for his digital creations. He did it simply because the system was flawed, and erasing it was the absolute most efficient way to clear up server space for a better iteration. If a Type 4 civilization were to look at our specific timeline and decide that the human variable is causing a messy cosmic bug, they would not attack us. They would simply overwrite the local space-time coordinates, effectively deleting our entire observable galaxy in the absolute blink of an eye. There would be no dramatic interstellar war, no heroic human resistance, and no time for us to even realize that the simulation had been abruptly terminated. The universe would just smoothly transition into a completely new mathematical state, entirely ignorant of the fact that we ever existed in the first place. That is the true, chilling nature of a civilization functioning as the absolute unquestioned engineers of reality. They operate on a scale so profoundly detached from our biological reality that our greatest historical triumphs and deepest tragedies mean absolutely nothing to them. We are definitely not bugs meant to be maliciously squashed, but rather abstract data points floating blindly in a substrate we cannot even begin to comprehend. How do we even begin to search for intelligent life when the very architects of that life might just be waiting to reboot the entire system from their own cosmic terminal? Whenever we look up at the vast expanse of the night sky, we are fundamentally trapped by our own human biases. We scan the darkness searching for familiar signs of engineering, hoping to catch the glint of a massive Dyson sphere or the exhaust trail of a colossal starship. We confidently assume that a highly advanced civilization, something approaching a level 5 on the Kardashev scale, would simply be a dramatically scaled-up version of ourselves. We expect them to be the ultimate cosmic mechanics, welding together entire solar systems and harvesting raw energy from burning stars with giant arrays of physical machinery. We imagine them building spaceships the size of Jupiter to conquer the Great Void, heavily armed and ready to colonize everything they find in their path. But let us pause and actually think about that for a second. Why on earth would a civilization millions or even billions of years ahead of us still rely on something as incredibly primitive as physical matter? Matter is inherently flawed, heavily constrained by thermodynamics, constantly decaying, and always fighting against the crushing weight of entropy. Expecting a transcendent cosmic entity to build a metal spaceship is exactly like expecting a modern Silicon Valley tech billionaire to build a cutting-edge quantum computer out of wooden abacus beads and strings. It just makes absolutely no logical sense. Building things out of atoms is a beginner's game in the grand cosmic arena. They would look at our massive rockets the same way we look at a caveman banging two rocks together. Now listen carefully, because here is where it gets truly interesting. What if the reason the Fermi Paradox exists is not because the universe is empty, but because our definition of life is tragically narrow? We have been desperately searching the cosmos for the wrong signatures entirely. The ultimate twist is that a level 5 civilization would not bother constructing magnificent superstructures out of space rock and heavy metal. They simply outgrew the clumsy constraints of physical matter a long time ago. They did not conquer the galaxy by building louder, faster, and more efficient engines to travel through space. Instead, they underwent a profound ascension that our biological brains can barely begin to comprehend. They transcended the awkward phase of needing physical bodies or mechanical avatars and found a way to seamlessly merge with the underlying fabric of reality itself. They do not live inside the universe anymore. They literally are the universe. They have become the very stage upon which the rest of us are unknowingly performing our tiny, insignificant biological plays. Yeah, that is it. They are the silent theater, not the noisy, arrogant actors trying to steal the spotlight on the stage. Think about the fundamental rules that govern everything around us right now. Think about that invisible, relentless force keeping the Earth tethered to the sun and preventing us from floating into the endless abyss. We comfortably call it gravity and blindly accept it as a mundane, natural phenomenon. We diligently measure the Planck constant, we observe the strange bending of time dilation, and we write these things down in physics textbooks as the cold, hard, unchangeable rules of a random cosmos. But what if our science is entirely misinterpreting the evidence right in front of our eyes? Perhaps these are not natural phenomena at all. What if those fundamental laws of physics are actually their conscious architecture? Imagine for a moment that gravity is not just a blind curvature of space-time, but rather the vast unseen nervous system of an ascended cosmic entity. The continuous, accelerating expansion of the universe might not be dark energy at work, but simply the rhythmic breathing of a civilization that has woven itself into the quantum foam. Time dilation could merely be the processing speed of their unimaginable collective consciousness, adjusting to different energy states. The fundamental constants of nature are just the perfect operating system they coded for their own convenience. This fundamentally flips our entire understanding of reality upside down and inside out. It provides a terrifyingly elegant answer to why our radio telescopes hear nothing but the static hiss of the cosmic microwave background. We are pointing our primitive satellite dishes at the sky, desperately looking for a localized radio wave or a laser beam in the dark. We are searching for a tiny needle in a cosmic haystack, completely unaware that the supreme architects of reality have literally become the hay. They are the darkness, the light, the gravity, and the time that stretches infinitely in every direction around us. We are just living inside their magnificent shadow. Let us imagine a highly stressful Tuesday morning in downtown Manhattan. Sarah is a 45-year-old hedge fund manager working on Wall Street. She sits absolutely glued to her heavy wooden desk while staring at 6 massive state-of-the-art, relentlessly blinking computer screens. Her sharp mind frantically processes endless streams of global financial data. She is desperately trying to analyze microscopic market risks and predict a incredibly tiny favorable probability. If she guesses correctly, her firm stands to make millions of dollars in a blink of an eye. Humanity operates exactly like Sarah when we look up at the vast cosmos. We build massive telescopes and incredibly complex mathematical models just to predict how the universe might behave. We try to calculate the exact probability of an asteroid hitting Earth or a distant star collapsing into a dark black hole. We are essentially just desperate gamblers trying to read the chaotic cosmic stock market. Now listen carefully. A Type 5 civilization does not predict the market because they completely own the entire casino. Let us accept the insane premise that a civilization could actually master quantum mechanics at a multiversal scale. At this ultimate level of technological evolution, the very concepts of space and time become nothing more than a simple game of statistical probability. They do not need to build massive physical structures or manipulate raw energy anymore. Instead, they directly manipulate the underlying mathematical code of existence itself. If humanity is frantically trying to guess the next roll of the quantum dice, these godlike entities are the ones actively loading the dice. Are they even physical beings at this point? Probably not. They exist as pure informational constructs, quietly navigating through endless multiversal probabilities. Deciding whether an entire universe lives or dies is a trivial matter for them. It is as utterly effortless as Sarah casually writing the number 0 on a blank piece of paper with her pen. Let us say they want to prevent a catastrophic cosmic event from wiping out their preferred timeline. They do not launch a massive fleet of heavily armed starships to physically intercept the threat. That is a ridiculously primitive Type 3 mindset. Instead, they simply reach deep into the quantum fabric and gracefully alter the statistical likelihood of that event ever happening in the first place. They intuitively reduce the statistical probability of a massive civilization ending, deadly supernova, down to absolute 0. They rewrite the foundational rules so that the dangerous outcome mathematically cannot exist in their perfectly constructed reality. Imagine having the supreme power to change the fundamental laws of physics simply by editing the cosmic spreadsheet. How do we even begin to comprehend a civilization that uses probability as a basic building block? This completely shatters our traditional understanding of what advanced life and supreme intelligence are supposed to look like in our limited reality. We are actively searching the dark sky for simple radio signals, while they are quietly rewriting the fundamental mathematical equations that govern the entire observable universe. Here is where it gets interesting, because when you truly grasp the sheer scale of a Type 5 civilization, human history suddenly feels completely insignificant. Every single war, every great invention, and every scientific breakthrough we have ever achieved is just a tiny random fluctuation in their grand probability matrix. We proudly think we are the main characters of this big old galaxy, but actually, we might just be a mathematically unavoidable byproduct of their incredibly complex quantum calculations. They are the supreme probability writers of ultimate reality. They do not merely exist within a specific physical universe, but rather the universe exists simply because they actively allow its baseline probability to remain slightly greater than zero. We are left blindly staring at the beautiful night sky every single night, completely oblivious to the sobering fact that the dark sky itself might be highly curated. Would we even recognize their divine presence if they were staring right back at us through the void? The terrifying truth is that we absolutely would not. Let us accept for a moment the most sacred foundation of modern human science and cosmic history. Every single textbook in every American high school teaches the magnificent story of the glorious Big Bang. We are told that our incredible universe burst into existence from an infinitely dense and hot singularity. This violent explosion created all the beautiful galaxies, shining stars, and complex planetary systems we see today. Humanity desperately wants to believe this grand origin story carries some profound cosmic purpose or hidden meaning. We romantically view this explosive birth as the ultimate miracle that perfectly arranged the laws of physics. It feels deeply comforting to think we are the lucky children of this incredibly magnificent cosmic event. However, when our most brilliant astronomers peer deep into the cosmic microwave background, they find strange anomalies. The intricate mathematical parameters governing our expanding reality simply look far too clean and suspiciously well organized. If you slightly adjust the delicate balance of gravity, the entire physical structure immediately collapses into nothingness. These frustrating cosmic clues have forced our brightest minds to quietly question the true nature of reality. Why is our specific cosmic bubble perfectly calibrated to allow complex biological structures to form and thrive? Could this extreme mathematical precision actually suggest a completely different and far more terrifying kind of origin? The uncomfortable truth might completely shatter everything we thought we knew about our precious little blue planet. What happened next will surprise you, because the answer lies entirely outside our primitive three-dimensional human comprehension. Imagine a Type 5 civilization that operates far beyond the fundamental concepts of physical space and time. These supreme entities do not build clumsy metal spaceships or harvest energy from tiny little dying stars. They manipulate the absolute deepest layers of reality with the same casual indifference as breathing ordinary air. To them, manipulating the raw fabric of existence is just a mundane part of their daily routine. They construct unimaginable energy engines that operate on principles our smartest human physicists cannot even barely comprehend. When these incomprehensible cosmic engineers need to generate power, they initiate processes that stretch across multiple complex dimensions. This brings us directly to the most horrifying revelation regarding the true origin of our entire physical universe. The glorious Big Bang was never a majestic natural phenomenon meant to birth beautiful glowing galaxies and life. It was simply the completely unremarkable moment when a random Type 5 engineer casually started their power reactor. That explosive singularity we constantly worship was literally just the ignition spark of a multidimensional industrial power plant. The vast expanding cosmos we observe is nothing more than the mundane mechanical functioning of a colossal machine. Our incredibly complex laws of physics are merely the operational safety parameters keeping their grand engines safely running. We are essentially living inside the mechanical equivalent of a gigantic cosmic combustion chamber operating at maximum capacity. If this horrifying truth holds up, then what exactly is the rapidly expanding physical universe we currently inhabit? Our beautiful reality is simply the leftover chemical exhaust smoke billowing out from their massively powerful cosmic engine. All the billions of glowing galaxies are nothing but glowing embers of waste material floating mindlessly far away. We are basically primitive bacteria thriving inside the dark exhaust pipe of a cosmic truck speeding down endless highways. This means the grand creation of humanity is completely accidental and holds absolutely zero meaning or significance to them. The supreme beings running this machine do not even know our tiny microscopic cosmic dust bubble actually exists. When you look up at the stunning night sky, you are literally just staring directly at thick industrial pollution. This brutal realization brings an overwhelming sense of existential dread that completely suffocates the fragile human ego instantly. Every single war we have ever fought and every magnificent poem we have ever written simply happened here. Our greatest scientific achievements and deepest emotional connections are just fleeting chemical reactions inside dirty waste smoke. We desperately build massive telescopes to find our glorious creators, hoping they will finally notice our incredible brilliance. Are we truly prepared to permanently accept that our entire sprawling history is just a meaningless accidental byproduct? Eventually, this supreme cosmic engineer will inevitably finish their mundane task and simply power down the huge reactor. When that final switch is casually flipped, our entire universe will quietly evaporate without a single lasting trace. There is absolutely no magnificent grand design waiting for us at the end of time. The ultimate truth of our existence is far darker than the deepest voids of space. Can the human mind ever truly recover from discovering such absolute cosmic insignificance in the dark? We have dissolved our grand cosmic ego. We reduced the Big Bang to an industrial byproduct. Now we must crash back down to our physical reality. How do we reconcile these theoretical scales with the quiet night sky we observe from our backyards? The most powerful tool we possess in modern science is not the James Webb Space Telescope or the Large Hadron Collider. It is the simple, humbling, and uncomfortable admission that we fundamentally do not know almost anything about the true nature of reality. This vast ocean of our own ignorance is not a scientific failure. It is rather the ultimate fuel that drives human imagination forward. We stare up into that big old galaxy and demand answers to Enrico Fermi's famous paradox about the apparent silence. We confidently expect these godlike entities to communicate using our primitive radio waves or massive laser beams shot across the dark interstellar void. But assuming a Type 5 civilization would use electromagnetic waves to say hello is incredibly arrogant. It completely ignores the massive evolutionary gap. Why would beings who literally write the quantum probabilities of existence bother broadcasting a standard radio signal for a brief biological flash like humanity? To truly understand this bizarre communication disconnect, let us imagine a highly organized colony of ants living peacefully right next to a bustling American highway. These industrious little insects have a perfectly structured society. They possess a clear hierarchy and a highly efficient chemical communication system using specific pheromones. From their extremely limited biological perspective, they are the absolute pinnacle of intelligence in their small, dirt-covered corner of the entire universe. Millions of gigabytes of human data are constantly flowing right through their tiny antennae every single second via invisible Wi-Fi signals and cellular networks. Yet, the ants remain completely oblivious to this massive exchange of human information. They simply lack the biological hardware to even perceive it. They do not hear the podcast streaming to a passing car. They ignore the text messages coordinating a business meeting or the GPS satellites silently guiding human travelers. They simply continue building their small dirt mounds. They are entirely convinced that the universe consists exclusively of soil, leaves, and chemical trails left by their peers. But the real secret is that humanity is currently sitting in the exact same position as that completely clueless ant colony beside the highway. We are desperately pointing our massive radio dishes at the distant stars, hoping to catch a faint chemical trail of familiar technological pheromones. Meanwhile, the actual architecture of cosmic communication might be passing straight through our physical bodies, in the form of dark matter waves or quantum entanglement. How do we resolve these apparent contradictions when our scientific tools are essentially just sophisticated antennae trying to decode an incomprehensible multidimensional internet? We must fully embrace the rule of our profound ignorance. We need to accept that our current physics might just be the absolute infancy of understanding. The eerie silence of the universe is not necessarily an empty void. It is perhaps a roaring symphony of data that we are simply too deaf to hear. If we accept that we are just the ants in this vast cosmic framework, the terrifying silence suddenly transforms into a deeply comforting mystery. Our fundamental inability to see them does not mean the universe is dead. It just means we have barely started learning how to really look. Until that monumental day arrives when we upgrade our cosmic perception, we are perfectly allowed to sit back and marvel at the sheer scale of our own limitations. This profound lack of answers is exactly what pushes a young kid with a telescope to keep staring at the moon and wondering what lies beyond. The true beauty of the cosmos is not found in having definitive answers neatly packaged in a textbook. It is found in the relentless pursuit of questions. Every time we discover a new layer of our ignorance, we take one small step closer to understanding the actual engineers of our reality. Let us accept that we might forever remain completely oblivious to the grand cosmic architecture operating quietly in the background. We could genuinely just be an accidental byproduct of some higher dimensional experiment that was never really meant for us. But the real secret is that this profound realization should not fill you with a paralyzing sense of existential dread. Instead, it should ignite an overwhelming spark of hope and an insatiable, individualistic longing for genuine scientific discovery. Why should we feel utterly insignificant when our very consciousness allows us to independently contemplate the profound depths of this reality? Even if humanity is nothing more than a transient line of forgotten code, we are still incredibly special and completely unique. Our relentless desire to individually understand this infinitely complex cosmic machinery is exactly what makes us truly magnificent. We are simply the universe itself, waking up and desperately trying to figure itself out through the curious minds of fragile biological creatures. This insatiable curiosity constantly pushes us toward the absolute edges of our current understanding of space and time. We are currently standing right at the precipice of the ultimate intellectual horizon, where our greatest modern scientific theories completely shatter into pieces. We build massive colliders and launch billion-dollar telescopes, dreaming big like pioneers staring at an endless, uncharted western frontier. We look into the terrifying hearts of black holes and realize that Einstein's beautiful equations eventually break down entirely. We study the bizarre, ghostly behaviors of quantum mechanics and find a reality that defies every ounce of everyday logic. How do we possibly reconcile the smooth curvature of gravity with the chaotic, unpredictable nature of the quantum realm? The undeniable friction between these two foundational pillars of physics tells us that a much deeper truth is quietly hiding. We are staring directly at the ultimate boundary line where the true nature of the cosmos might finally be revealed. Perhaps the definitive answers to the Fermi Paradox are not waiting for us on some distant, rocky exoplanet orbiting a foreign star. Maybe the ultimate revelation is intricately locked inside the singularity of a massive black hole, where space and time become utterly meaningless. We might only find the truth when we finally develop a unified theory that flawlessly bridges the colossal universe and the microscopic quantum realities. That demands that we push far beyond our fragile biological limits and keep boldly questioning the very fabric of our strange, fleeting existence. We must bravely explore the dark cosmic void until those two fundamentally incompatible physics theories finally merge to reveal the ultimate hidden architecture. Until then, we will keep looking up at the vast night sky with a profound sense of awe and a beautiful, endless uncertainty. The greatest human adventure has only just begun.